The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched impossibly wide, its obsidian walls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. 7,000 representatives from across the Milky Way sat in tiered seating that spiraled upward into darkness. At the center stood a lone human, Ambassador Jack Reynolds, small against the enormity of the chamber, but standing tall. The species known as humans stands accused of violating Directive 742, announced High Chancellor Voxtar, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent contempt. Your kind has developed forbidden dimensional technology, despite explicit warnings. The penalty is quarantine. Earth will be sealed from the stars for 1,000 years. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Praxian delegation clicked their mandibles in approval. The Urlani representatives waved their sensory tendrils, absorbing the emotional current in the room. Satisfaction, smugness, relief. Reynolds didn't flinch. Before this council passes judgment, we request the right of demonstration. Silence fell instantly. The right of demonstration was ancient, rarely invoked, and impossible to deny. You invoke the right? Voxtar's voice betrayed genuine surprise. Be warned, human. Should your demonstration fail to sway this council, the punishment will double. We understand, Reynolds replied, pressing a small device on his wrist. Behind him, the air shimmered. What appeared to be ordinary space twisted, folded, and tore open. Through this impossible doorway stepped 3 more humans carrying a strange metallic case. The council erupted in outrage. No technology should have bypassed their security. Silence, thundered Voxtar. Explain this breach immediately. Reynolds smiled thinly. You've accused us of developing dimensional technology. We don't deny it, but you've fundamentally misunderstood what we've created. He nodded to his colleagues, who opened the case. Inside lay what appeared to be an ancient sword, gleaming metal with circuitry running through its blade-like veins. 2 standard cycles ago, your coalition battleships destroyed our research outpost on Europa, killing 347 scientists and their families. Reynolds continued, his voice cutting through the chamber. You claimed our dimensional research threatened the fabric of reality. You were wrong. One of the humans lifted the sword and pressed a sequence on its hilt. The blade hummed to life, emitting a soft blue glow. We call it the Nexus Blade, Reynolds said. It doesn't tear reality, it reveals it. And what it has shown us is that the Galactic Council has been lying for millennia. The human holding the sword made a simple gesture. The blade sliced through apparently empty air, and the chamber's holographic security grid became visible, shimmering like a spiderweb of light. Another slice, and suddenly the private communication channels used by council members materialized as tangible light streams flowing between representatives. A third slice, and hidden beneath the Chancellor's platform, a pulsing orb appeared, the legendary thought suppressor that conspiracy theorists had claimed existed for centuries. The council chamber descended into chaos as Reynolds continued, his voice amplified somehow above the din. We didn't develop this technology to wage war. We built it to reveal truth, and now the galaxy will see what you've been hiding. The emergency alarms blared throughout the massive station housing the Galactic Council headquarters. Reynolds and his team were already running through the curved corridors. The Nexus Blade secured in its case once more. They're locking down all departure bays, said Commander Lisa Ortiz, checking the small holographic display on her wrist. Security drones deployed on all levels. Reynolds nodded grimly. Just as we expected. Ramirez, are you in position? Through their secure comm channel, the voice of Lieutenant Ramirez responded, Affirmative, Ambassador. Ready to extract on your mark. The 3 humans rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a squad of crawl guards, the Council's elite security force. 8 feet tall with armored exoskeletons, they raised their energy weapons. Surrender the technology immediately, their leader demanded, voice distorted through translation tech. Reynolds looked at his teammates. Plan B. Dr. Maya Fujimoto, the quantum physicist who had helped develop the Nexus technology, tapped a sequence on her wrist device. The air around them shimmered slightly. The crawl opened fire, but their energy blasts passed harmlessly through the humans, hitting the wall behind them. Phase shift successful, Fujimoto said. We have 3 minutes before molecular realignment. The humans walked straight through the confused crawl guards, their bodies slightly translucent, existing partially in another dimension. They reached a maintenance shaft and climbed inside just as the phase shift wore off, their bodies returning fully to normal space. Reynolds to Helios base, the ambassador said into his comm. The council has reacted as expected. Prepare for immediate retaliation. On Earth at the newly established United Defense Command in Geneva, Fleet Admiral Marcus Rivera received Reynolds's transmission. He turned to the assembled military and political leaders from nations around the world. It's begun, he announced. The council has seen our hand. Now they'll show theirs. A holographic display lit up showing the positions of known council warships. Already they were changing course, heading toward Earth. We have 24 hours before their primary battle fleet reaches our solar system, Rivera continued. Activate all defense platforms and notify all our agents throughout council space. Operation Lighthouse is now active. On the outskirts of the council station, a small, nondescript cargo ship detached from its docking clamp. Inside, Reynolds and his team secured themselves for departure. We won't make it to the jump point before they lock on to us, Ortiz warned, taking the pilot's seat. We won't have to, Reynolds replied. Our exit strategy isn't conventional. The ship accelerated away from the station, immediately pursued by council patrol vessels. Warning messages flooded their communication system, ordering them to power down and prepare for boarding. Instead, Fujimoto activated a larger version of the device Reynolds had used in the council chamber. A massive tier opened in space directly ahead of their ship. Dimensional corridor established, she announced. Stable for 15 seconds. The cargo ship plunged into the tear and emerged instantly near Neptune, billions of miles away from the council station. Transit successful, Ortiz confirmed, checking the navigation system. All systems nominal. Reynolds let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Contact Mars base. Tell them we're coming in with the package. The hidden human base on Mars had been constructed in secret over the past decade. Ever since first contact with the Galactic Council had revealed their restrictive policies on technological development. Built beneath the surface of Olympus Mons, it served as humanity's fallback headquarters. As their ship docked in the concealed hangar, they were met by a slender, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and large, multifaceted eyes. Lurix, Reynolds greeted the alien. I assume you watched the council broadcast. Indeed, Lurix replied, their voice melodious despite the translation. You have done something unprecedented, Ambassador. No species has ever directly challenged the council in their own chamber. The alien's eyes blinked in a pattern that indicated amusement. They are most displeased. That was the plan, Reynolds said as they walked toward the command center. The council has kept technological innovation suppressed for too long, always claiming it's for the safety of the galaxy. It was time to show them and everyone else what they've been hiding. In the command center, dozens of screens showed news broadcasts from across the galaxy. The footage from the council chamber, Reynolds with the Nexus blade, revealing the hidden security systems and the thought. Suppressor had already gone, viral on every inhabited world. The council is declaring Earth a destabilizing influence and has authorized military action, reported Intelligence Director Anya Petrova, a former linguistics expert who had been the first to decode the council's secret archives. But they've miscalculated. Our agents have already activated Nexus relays on 37 key worlds. Reynolds nodded in satisfaction. And the other species? Any responses yet? The Vespari hives have reached out unofficially, Petrova said. They've faced similar suppression from the council for generations. They're interested in an alliance. Lurix stepped forward. Ambassador, there is something you should know. I have accessed the deep archives of the council, records restricted even to most council members. Alien brought up a holographic display showing ancient symbols and diagrams. You are not the first to discover dimensional technology. The Zren civilization developed similar technology nearly 15,000 years ago. The council didn't just suppress them, they eliminated them entirely. A shocked silence fell over the room. An entire species wiped out? Fujimoto whispered. The official records claim the Zren caused their own extinction through technological mishap. Lurix continued. But these hidden archives tell a different story. The council's founding species feared the Zren's dimensional discoveries and orchestrated their destruction. Reynolds studied the ancient records, his expression hardening. So the council isn't just suppressing innovation, They're willing to commit genocide to maintain control. Why would they go to such extremes? Ortiz asked. What are they so afraid of? That, said Lurix, is the question that has haunted me since I discovered these archives. The news of humanity's defiance spread across the galaxy faster than light. On the mineral-rich world of Koth, the crystalline Lithians gathered in their great resonance chambers, their faceted bodies reflecting the images of the human ambassador and the legendary Nexus blade. The Council had suppressed their crystal technology for centuries, claiming it was potentially destabilizing. Now they watched in silent wonder as the truth of the Council's deception was revealed. The humans have done what we feared to do, spoke Elder Prismat, her crystal form vibrating with emotion. They have challenged the Council directly, and survived, added War-Facet Brillos, his sharp edges catching the light. Their dimensional technology bypassed all Council defenses. The gathering hummed with the harmonic vibrations of agreement. For too long, the Lithians had accepted Council restrictions on their natural crystal-based technologies. Perhaps it was time for change. Halfway across the galaxy in the buzzing hive complexes of the Vespari, similar discussions took place. The insectoid species had evolved a form of biological quantum communication, allowing instantaneous exchanges across vast distances. The Council had forced them to limit this ability, claiming it interfered with official communication channels. Queen Mother Zizi watched the human demonstration through her million eyes, each connected to a different drone throughout Vespari space. Her massive form pulsed with anticipation. Send emissaries to the humans, she commanded, her pheromones carrying authority throughout the central hive. We will offer alliance. Together we can break free of Council restrictions. The Council will retaliate, warned her chief strategist. They control trade routes, resource distribution, military power. The Council's power has always depended on secrecy and fear, the Queen Mother replied. The humans have exposed both. Now is our moment. Across thousands of worlds, species that had long suffered under Council restrictions watched and whispered. Some feared change, others embraced it. The galaxy was fracturing along new lines, and at the center of this growing storm was Earth. On the blue-green world, Director of Defense Talia Washington stood on the observation platform of the New Denver space elevator, watching refugee ships descend through the atmosphere. Since humanity's demonstration with the Nexus blade, representatives from dozens of species had fled to Earth, seeking asylum from Council persecution. How many today? She asked her aide. 17 ships, Director. Mostly Lithians and Vespari. But we've also got a group of Morellan philosophers and even a few Praxian defectors. Washington nodded grimly. Earth had prepared for refugees, but not on this scale. Already, hastily constructed settlements were spreading across less populated regions of the planet. The President wants an update on our defensive capabilities, her aide continued. The Council blockade is tightening. 17 massive Council warships now orbited the solar system, positioned to intercept any conventional vessel attempting to enter or leave. Smaller patrol craft regularly probed Earth's defenses, testing for weaknesses. Tell the President our dimensional corridors remain undetected, Washington replied. Food and medical supplies continue to move through the blockade. The Council believes they're starving us into submission, but our shipments are arriving on schedule. The dimensional technology that humans had developed allowed small objects to phase through normal space, bypassing the blockade entirely. Essential supplies continued to reach Earth, though the process required enormous energy. In the temporary refugee center below, Washington watched as newly arrived aliens were processed, scanned for diseases and assigned temporary housing. The massive dome echoed with dozens of languages, translation devices working overtime. Director, her comm unit buzzed. There's someone here who insists on speaking with you. Says it's about the Nexus technology. I'm busy with the refugee situation, Washington replied, irritated at the interruption. Sir, he demonstrated something. The security scanners didn't detect him entering the building. He just appeared in the lobby. Washington's attention sharpened. I'll be right there. In the administrative section of the refugee center, Washington found a tall, thin man waiting calmly. He wore simple clothing with no insignia or identification. His eyes were unnervingly pale. Director Washington, he said, voice soft but carrying. I am glad to meet you at last. You have me at a disadvantage, she replied coolly. You know my name, but I don't know yours. Names are transient, the man said with a slight smile. But if you require one, you may call me the architect. Washington studied him carefully. You bypassed our security systems, how? Instead of answering, the man reached into his pocket and withdrew a small device. Before the security officers could react, he activated it, and the room around them changed. The walls became transparent, revealing the energy conduits and security sensors hidden within. The same technology as the Nexus blade, Washington realized. Similar, but more refined, the architect corrected. I was part of the original research team, before the Council attack on Europa. Washington's expression hardened at the mention of the attack that had killed hundreds of human scientists and their families. You survived. Some of us did. We continued our work in secret even from Earth's government. The architect deactivated the device and the room returned to normal. The technology you've deployed, the dimensional corridors, the phase shifting, it's just the beginning of what's possible. Why come forward now? Because the Council is more dangerous than you realize. They've suppressed dimensional research for a reason. There are applications you haven't discovered yet, applications that could either save humanity or doom it. Before Washington could respond, her comm unit buzzed urgently. Director, we've got trouble. Council enforcers have breached Mars airspace. They've located our base. On Mars, alarms blared throughout the hidden human facility. Reynolds and his team rushed to the command center, where tactical displays showed 5 Council destroyer-class vessels descending through the thin Martian atmosphere. How did they find us? Ortiz demanded, strapping into her station. Unknown, replied the tactical officer. Our stealth systems were functioning normally. Reynolds turned to Lurix. Is it possible they have technology similar to our Nexus devices? Something that can detect dimensional anomalies? The alien's eyes blinked rapidly in concern. If they do, it would be highly classified. Not even I was aware of such capabilities. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer, from the lead Council vessel. The main screen activated, showing the face of a Praxian commander, his insectoid features amplified by the ceremonial battle armor he wore. Humans, the commander's translated voice rasped. I'm Enforcer Krizik, by order of the Galactic Council. This illegal facility is to be surrendered immediately. All dimensional technology is to be relinquished for destruction. Failure to comply will result in orbital bombardment. Reynolds stepped forward. Enforcer Krizik, this facility is on sovereign human territory. Your presence here violates multiple Council treaties. Treaties are voided when existential threats are identified, Krizik replied. Your dimensional technology has been classified as such a threat. You have 10 minutes to surrender. The transmission ended. Options? Reynolds asked, looking around the command center. The base's shields can't withstand orbital bombardment for long, Fujimoto said. And our weapons are defensive, not designed for ship-to-ship combat. What about evacuation? Petrova suggested. We could use the dimensional corridors. Not enough time to move everyone and our equipment, Reynolds replied. And once we're gone, they'll destroy everything we've built here. Lurix stepped forward. There is another possibility. The dimensional mirrors Dr. Fujimoto developed. Could they be reconfigured on a larger scale? Fujimoto's eyes widened. You're suggesting we reflect their bombardment back at them? It's never been tested at that magnitude. But it's theoretically possible? Yes. We'd need to modify the base's shield generators and reroute power from all non-essential systems. Reynolds nodded decisively. Do it, Ortiz. Evacuate all non-essential personnel. Everyone else prepare for impact. As the team rushed to implement the plan, Reynolds contacted Earth. Admiral Rivera, the Council has found our Mars base. We're implementing defensive measures, but I suggest you prepare for broader engagement. Understood, Rivera replied. We've detected unusual activity from the blockade fleet as well. They may be coordinating a system-wide attack. Reynolds ended the transmission and turned to find Petrova watching him intently. Jack, she said quietly. Using his first name for once, if this works, if we can repel a Council attack, it will change everything. No species has successfully defied Council military action in over 1,000 years. I know, he replied grimly. And if we fail, humanity might not get another chance. Outside, the Council destroyers moved into bombardment position, their weapons systems powering up. Inside the base, Fujimoto and her team worked frantically to modify the shield generators, rerouting power and reconfiguring the dimensional technology to create a massive mirror effect. 2 minutes to bombardment, announced the tactical officer. Shield modifications. At 70%, reported Fujimoto, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. We need more time. We don't have it, Reynolds responded. He turned to Lou. The legendary Hive archive loomed before them, a massive biological structure pulsing with faint bioluminescence. Unlike the sterile metal and composite materials used in most galactic construction, the archive was alive, a colossal organism grown and shaped over millennia by the ancient Myraxi species to store the collective knowledge of the galaxy. Reynolds, Petrova, and Lurik stood before its enormous opening, which resembled nothing so much as the maw of some gigantic creature. Around them, the jungle planet Nix 7 teemed with life, the air heavy with moisture and filled with the calls of alien wildlife. The Council believes this facility was abandoned centuries ago, Lurik explained, their forearms making intricate gestures as they spoke. After the Myraxi transcended physical form, the Council declared this world off limits, claiming environmental hazards. But that was a lie, Petrova said, adjusting her envirosuit. The translator embedded in her collar converted her words to the melodic tones of ancient Myraxi. Indeed, Lurix confirmed. The archive remains functional. The Council simply didn't want anyone accessing the information stored here. Reynolds checked the Nexus blade, secured in its special holster at his side. Let's find out why. They approached the entrance, which sensed their presence and dilated further, revealing a passage lined with pulsing veins of light. As they stepped inside, the organic walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting slightly. The archive responds to thought patterns, Lurix whispered. It will guide us toward the information we seek if we focus our intentions. Reynolds concentrated on their mission, discovering the true purpose behind the Council's technological suppression. Immediately, the veins of light brightened along one corridor, creating a path deeper into the living structure. It's working, Petrova murmured. Fascinating. They followed the guided path, moving deeper into the archive. The passages branched and merged organically, sometimes widening into vast chambers filled with what looked like giant neural clusters, storage nodes for incomprehensible amounts of data. How do we access specific information? Reynolds asked, awed by the scale of the living database. In response, Lurix approached one of the neural clusters and placed all 4 hands on its surface. The cluster pulsed brighter, and tendrils extended from it, gently wrapping around Lurix's arms. I am establishing a direct connection, the alien explained, eyes half closed in concentration, searching for records of the Council's founding and early directives regarding dimensional technology. The neural cluster pulsed rhythmically, each flash slightly different in color and intensity. Lurix's eyes moved rapidly beneath their lids, processing the information flowing directly into their mind. Suddenly, the alien gasped and pulled away, severing the connection. What is it? Reynolds demanded. What did you find? It's worse than I imagined, Lurix said, voice trembling. The Council was not formed as a diplomatic body at all. It was created as a containment measure, a quarantine enforcement. Quarantine against what? Petrova asked. Lurix gestured to another, larger neural cluster nearby. It would be better to show you. This time, all 3 of them placed their hands on the cluster's surface. The tendrils extended, connecting to each of them. Reynolds felt a strange sensation, like cold water flowing up his arms and into his mind, and then he was somewhere else. Witnessing events that had occurred 50,000 years ago, a massive fleet of ships, unlike any design still used in the galaxy, faced a swirling anomaly in space. The anomaly pulsed with impossible colors, expanding and contracting like a breathing thing. From within the anomaly emerged something. Not ships, not creatures, but entities that defied categorization. They seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially elsewhere, their forms shifting and changing constantly. Communication was attempted. Disaster followed. The entities didn't attack. They simply existed in a way that was fundamentally incompatible with normal space-time. Wherever they passed, reality itself became unstable. Planets distorted. Stars aged millions of years in seconds. Entire species found their Biological processes accelerated or reversed at random. The ancient species that would eventually form the Council discovered that the entities came from what they called the void between, a dimension adjacent to normal space but operating under entirely different physical laws. The Council species learned that dimensional technology, which weakened the barriers between realities, had attracted the attention of these void entities. In desperation, they developed technology to seal the breaches and force the entities back into their own dimension. Billions died in the conflict. Entire star systems were rendered uninhabitable, but eventually they succeeded. The Council was formed with one primary directive: prevent another incursion at all costs. This meant suppressing any technology that might thin the barriers between dimensions. The memory vision ended, and Reynolds found himself back in the archive, breathing heavily. "Now we understand," Petrova said quietly. "The Council's founders actually were trying to protect the galaxy. But they became corrupted over time," Lurix added. "What began as a necessary safeguard evolved into a system of absolute control. They used the threat to justify suppressing all technological advancement that might challenge their authority." Reynolds stood silently, processing what they'd learned. "This changes things," he finally said. "If our dimensional technology really could lead to another incursion—" "But that's just it," Lurix interrupted. "I found something else in the archives. The void entities weren't hostile, they were simply curious. The disaster occurred because the ancient species reacted with fear and attempted to capture one for study." "Are you saying the whole conflict could have been avoided?" Petrova asked. "Possibly. The records suggest the entities only became disruptive after hostile actions were taken against them." Reynolds considered this new information. "We need to know more about these void entities and how our technology relates to them. Let's go deeper." They moved further into the archive, following new pathways of light that responded to their refined questions. Eventually, they reached a central chamber, a vast spherical space with a pulsing core of neural material suspended in the center. "This is the primary node," Lurix explained with reverence. "The oldest and most comprehensive data storage in the archive." As they approached the core, tendrils reached out eagerly, almost hungrily. This time the connection was immediate and overwhelming. They witnessed the complete history of dimensional research throughout the galaxy. They saw species after species approach the same discoveries, only to be suppressed or destroyed by the Council. They saw the Zren, brilliant researchers who came closest to understanding the true nature of the void entities, before the Council eradicated them completely. Most importantly, they discovered a crucial difference in human dimensional technology. "Our approach is fundamentally different," Petrova realized as the vision ended. "We're not breaching the barriers between dimensions in the same way. The Nexus technology reveals reality rather than tearing it, which means we might not attract the void entities at all," Reynolds concluded. "Or we might communicate with them more effectively," Lurix suggested, "without causing the disruptions that occurred before." Their discussion was interrupted by an alert from Reynolds' secure communicator. "Emergency transmission from Earth," he announced, activating the holographic display. Admiral Rivera's face appeared, his expression grave. "Reynolds, we have a situation. A Council battle group has broken through our outer system defenses. They've deployed a new weapon that somehow counteracts our dimensional shields." "Casualties?" Reynolds asked immediately. "The Neptune outpost is gone. 500 personnel." Rivera's jaw tightened. "They're moving toward Earth now. But that's not all. We've intercepted Council communications about something called the Purifier, a superweapon capable of sterilizing our entire solar system." "When?" "Intelligence suggests they're preparing to deploy it within 72 hours. We need you back here immediately." Reynolds nodded grimly. "We found critical information about why the Council fears dimensional technology. We'll bring it all back. Use the emergency extraction protocol," Rivera instructed. "We can't risk losing what you've discovered." The transmission ended. 72 hours to prevent genocide," Petrova murmured. "The Council is really willing to eliminate humanity entirely. Just as they did with the Zren," Lurix confirmed. "When they feel sufficiently threatened, extinction is their answer." Reynolds touched the Nexus blade at his side. "We need to get back to Earth immediately. But first," he turned to the pulsing core of the archive. "We need to make a copy of everything we've learned." He removed a specialized data crystal from his equipment pouch. Unlike conventional storage devices, this crystal had been modified with Nexus technology, allowing it to interface with the archive's biological systems. Will that work? Petrova asked. The archive responds to intention, Reynolds replied. It should recognize what we're trying to do. He held the crystal toward the neural core, focusing his thoughts on preserving the knowledge they'd discovered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then tendrils extended from the core, wrapping gently around the crystal, which began to glow with the same bioluminescent pulses as the archive itself. It's working, Lurix confirmed. Observing the process WW, the command center fell silent as the architect's true identity was finally revealed. The tall, thin figure stood before them, his form occasionally shifting and blurring at the edges, as if he existed partially in another dimension. My name is Dr. Eleanor Reeves, she said, her voice changing, becoming more feminine but maintaining that same otherworldly quality. The man's features softened, transformed, revealing the face of a woman in her 50s with striking silver hair and penetrating blue eyes. I led the Europa research team before the Council attack. Reynolds stared in shock. Dr. Reeves? But you died in the attack. I saw the casualty reports myself, did I? Reeves smiled enigmatically. Or did I simply transition to a different state of being? The dimensional lens she had built continued pulsing behind her, the window to the void dimension growing larger and more stable with each passing second. During our final experiment on Europa, Reeves continued, I made direct contact with the void dimension. I expected to die. Instead, I was changed. Part of me now exists there, while part remains here. You're hybridized, Petrova realized, backing away slightly. That's how you've advanced the technology so quickly. You understand it from both perspectives. Precisely. Reeves turned to Rivera and Washington. The Council didn't destroy our outpost because they feared the technology itself. They destroyed it because they detected my transformation. Their ancient records warned that hybridization was possible, and that hybrid beings could potentially bring the dimensions together permanently. Washington's hand moved toward her sidearm. Is that what you're attempting now? To merge our dimension with the void? No, Reeves replied firmly. I'm opening a channel of communication, nothing more. The void entities aren't what the Council believes. They're ancient, yes, and powerful beyond comprehension, but they harbor no ill will toward our dimension. The disaster 50,000 years ago was a tragic misunderstanding on both sides. On the main view screen, the situation in orbit had become chaotic. The dimensional window created by Reeves's lens hovered between the human and Council fleets, a swirling portal of impossible colors and geometries. The Council vessels had ceased their attack on the Revelation, all weapons now trained on the portal. They're going to fire on the dimensional window, Rivera realized. They think they can close it by force. That would be catastrophic, Reeves warned. The energy discharge would destabilize the controlled opening. We need to establish communication quickly before they act. She turned to the dimensional lens and made subtle adjustments to its configuration. The window pulsed in response, its patterns shifting. What are you doing? Reynolds demanded. Sending a message, Reeves replied. In a language the void entities will understand. The portal rippled and something emerged partially, not fully entering normal space but extending a presence like a hand dipping into water. It had no definite shape, constantly shifting and reforming, beautiful and terrifying in its alien nature. Alarms blared throughout the command center as sensors registered massive energy fluctuations. The Council fleet is powering weapons, reported a tactical officer. They're targeting both the portal and Earth directly. The purifier is activating, added another officer. Energy readings off the scale. Reeves looked at Reynolds, her expression urgent. We need to show them. Let them see that communication is possible, that destruction isn't necessary. Reynolds hesitated only a moment before making his decision. Open a channel to the Council flagship. On screen, the face of Grand Admiral Zethkar appeared, a member of the Council's founding species, his ancient eyes filled with fury and fear. Humans. He snarled. You doom yourselves in the entire galaxy. Close that portal immediately or face extinction. Admiral Zethkar, Reynolds replied calmly. What you're seeing isn't an invasion. It's a controlled communication window. The void entities aren't hostile. Lies. Zethkar spat. We have faced their kind before. We know the destruction they bring. You misunderstood them, Reynolds insisted. Just as you've misunderstood us. Our dimensional technology isn't a weapon, it's a bridge. As if to emphasize his point, the void entity extending through the portal shifted its form, creating patterns of light and energy that pulsed in a regular sequence. It's communicating, Reeves whispered, watching the patterns with fascination. A mathematical sequence, universal constants expressed in energy patterns. Zethkar's expression hardened. You've been corrupted already. The purifier will cleanse this system and the galaxy will be safe once more. The transmission cut abruptly. On the tactical display, the purifier began to move, positioning itself for optimal firing position on Earth. Options? Rivera demanded, looking around the command center. The revelation can't stop the purifier, reported Captain Rodriguez from orbit. Its shields absorb our dimensional weapons completely. Conventional weapons would be equally useless, added Washington. That thing was designed to survive anything we could throw at it. Reynolds turned to Reeves. What about the void entities? Could they help us? Not directly, she replied. Their interaction with our dimension is too disruptive without proper mediation, but... She hesitated, her expression troubled. There is one possibility. What? The Nexus Blade. In its current form, it reveals hidden reality. But with modifications, it could do more. It could temporarily align dimensional frequencies, allowing something from one dimension to affect another. You're suggesting we use the blade to make the purifier vulnerable to the void entities? Petrova asked. Yes, but it would require someone to physically bring the blade to the purifier and activate it at point-blank range. Silence fell over the command center as the implications sank in. A suicide mission, Rivera said quietly. I'll do it, Reynolds decided immediately. I brought the blade to the council chamber. I'll finish what I started. No, Petrova objected. You're needed here, coordinating with the council moderates. There are members who oppose this attack. We've been in contact with them. Without you, that diplomatic channel collapses. I'll go, offered Rodriguez from the revelation. We can approach under cloak and board the purifier. Your ship is already damaged, Rivera pointed out. You'd never make it close enough. Then I'll go, Washington said firmly. I can take a small craft. Their focus will be on the revelation and the portal. They might not notice a single shuttle. Reynolds started to object, but the tactical display changed again. The council fleet had split, half maintaining position near the dimensional portal, weapons ready, while the other half escorted the purifier into firing position. We're out of time, Rivera said grimly. Director Washington's plan is our best option. Prepare a stealth shuttle immediately. As the orders were relayed, Reeves approached Washington. The blade will need modifications to affect the purifier. She held out her hand, and when Washington hesitantly handed over the Nexus blade, Reeves passed her fingers along its length. The circuitry within the blade pulsed and reconfigured itself, responding to her touch. What did you do? Washington asked, taking the blade back. I aligned it to the purifier's specific frequency. When activated, it will momentarily bring the weapon into phase with the void dimension. And then what happens? Reeves' expression was grim. Physics as we understand it doesn't apply there. The purifier's energy source will become unstable. You mean it will explode? On a scale none of us have ever witnessed, Reeves confirmed. You'll need to activate the blade and get as far away as possible. Washington nodded, understanding the implications. The chances of escaping were minimal at best. 30 minutes later, Washington's stealth shuttle slipped away from Earth, its dimensional cloak making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. The modified Nexus blade was secured in a specialized container at her side. In the command center, Reynolds watched her progress on the tactical display. Status of the purifier? Final arming sequence initiated, reported a sensor officer. Estimated time to firing capability 18 minutes. Washington's ETA to intercept? 22 minutes at current speed. Reynolds exchanged glances with Rivera. She won't make it in time. We need a distraction, Rivera decided. Something to delay the purifier's firing sequence. He opened a channel to the revelation. Captain Rodriguez, we need you to engage the purifier directly. Not to destroy it, just to buy time. Understood, Admiral, Rodriguez replied. We'll give it everything we've got. On screen, they watched as the revelation decloaked and accelerated toward the purifier, weapons firing at maximum capacity. The massive council weapon turned ponderously to face this new threat, temporarily halting its arming sequence. "That's bought us a few minutes," Rivera noted. "But the revelation can't last long against that thing." Meanwhile, at the dimensional portal, the void entity continued its attempts at communication, its patterns becoming more complex and organized. Reeves watched in fascination, occasionally making adjustments to the lens to maintain stability. "They're trying to show us something," she murmured. "Mathematical concepts, universal constants, but also something else." Petrova joined her at the monitoring station. "What do you mean?" "Look at these repeating patterns." Reeves pointed to a display showing the energy fluctuations from the portal. "They're not random. They're structured like a language. Can you interpret it?" "Not fully, but certain The massive dimensional lens pulsed with energy as it activated, its crystalline structure casting prismatic light throughout the newly constructed dimensional observatory. Built on what had once been the Europa Research Outpost, the observatory stood as humanity's most ambitious project, a permanent bridge between dimensions designed for ongoing communication with the void entities. Jack Reynolds stood beside Dr. Eleanor Reeves, watching as the lens reached full power. Representatives from 37 species filled the observation gallery, including members of the newly reformed Galactic Council. Even the most skeptical among them fell silent as the dimensional window opened, revealing the now familiar swirling colors and impossible geometries of the void dimension. 6 months ago, most of the beings in this room would have considered this an act of war, Reynolds remarked quietly to Reeves. "Now they've traveled across the galaxy to witness it." Reeves smiled, her form still occasionally shifting between dimensions, a permanent reminder of her unique status as the first human-void hybrid. "Fear is powerful," she replied, "but curiosity is stronger in the end." The void entity they had come to know as the first communicator appeared in the window, not fully entering normal space, but extending its presence into the transition zone created by the lens. Its patterns had become more structured over the months of contact, adapting to communicate more effectively with beings from normal space. "Greetings, friends across the divide," translated the advanced interface system developed by Dr. Petrova. The entity's mathematical patterns and energy fluctuations were now routinely converted into speech, though many nuances remained difficult to capture. "We celebrate this permanent connection between our realms." High Chancellor Lurix, elevated to lead the Reformed Council after the extremists' removal, stepped forward. The four-armed alien had become an unexpected bridge between traditional council species and the revolutionary changes sweeping the galaxy. "On behalf of all species in normal space, we return your greeting," Lurix said formally. "This observatory represents our commitment to understanding rather than fear, to communication rather than isolation." The ceremony continued, dignitaries making speeches about the new era of dimensional cooperation. But Reynolds noticed Reeves growing increasingly distracted, her attention focused on subtle changes in the void entity's patterns. "What is it?" he asked quietly. "They're showing something new," she whispered, "behind the formal communication. There's another layer, something urgent." As the official ceremony concluded and delegates moved to the reception area, Reeves, Reynolds, and a small team of key personnel remained behind. "First communicator," Reeves addressed the entity directly. "You're trying to tell us something beyond the ceremonial exchange, something about the unmaking." The entity's patterns shifted dramatically, becoming more complex and intense. The translation system struggled to keep up. "The time approaches faster than anticipated," came the translated response. "The barriers between all dimensions thin, not by technology, but by natural cosmic cycles." Director Washington, fully recovered from her experience inside the purifier, stepped forward. "When I was between dimensions, you showed me images of the unmaking." "What exactly is it?" The entity's form pulsed rhythmically. "Existence is a fragile balance. Dimensions press against one another, separated by cosmic membranes. Every 100 million years, these membranes naturally weaken. In the space between all dimensions dwells that which consumes reality itself." The translation system projected visualizations based on the entity's patterns, showing multiple dimensions arranged like bubbles in a vast cosmic foam, with shadowy tendrils moving through the spaces between them. "These tendrils," Reeves said, "they're what you call the unmaking?" They are its reach, the entity clarified. The unmaking itself has no form we can comprehend. It is anti-existence, the negation of reality. When the dimensional barriers weaken, it extends its influence, consuming entire realms. A heavy silence fell over the human team as they absorbed this revelation. How long do we have? Admiral Rivera asked, ever the pragmatist. In your temporal understanding, approximately 20 years before the barriers begin significant weakening, another decade before the first breaches occur. And what can we do? Reynolds questioned. How does one fight something that unmakes reality itself? The void entity's patterns formed into a recognizable shape, the Nexus Blade. Your dimensional technology was not a coincidence, the entity communicated. Your species developed it at precisely the cosmic moment when it was needed. We have watched many civilizations across many dimensions. Only a few develop the ability to bridge realities without destroying themselves. You are one such species. Washington exchanged glances with Reynolds. You're saying humans are somehow chosen for this? Not chosen, evolved. The capacity to comprehend multiple dimensional states is rare. Most species cannot conceptualize realities beyond their own without madness or self-destruction. The Council's suppression of dimensional technology, Lurix realized, it actually prevented other species from developing this capability naturally. Yes, fear restricted growth. The ancient catastrophe was unfortunate timing. Contact occurred just as your species were beginning to explore dimensional concepts, but before you could understand them properly. So what now? Rivera pressed. How does our dimensional technology help against this unmaking? The Nexus technology reveals reality, Reeves answered, understanding dawning in her eyes. But with modification, it could do more. It could reinforce reality. Strengthen the barriers between dimensions. Precisely, confirmed the entity. A network of dimensional lenses, properly calibrated, could reinforce the cosmic membranes when they begin to weaken. But this requires cooperation across multiple dimensions. No single realm can generate sufficient energy alone. Reynolds considered the enormity of this revelation. So we need to create an alliance not just among species in our dimension, but between dimensions themselves. Yes, a covenant of realities. The void dimension alone has made contact with 7 others where intelligent life exists. All must join in this effort. 3 months later, the first interdimensional council convened in the expanded observatory. Representatives from normal space sat alongside specially designed interfaces that allowed entities from the void dimension and 2 newly contacted dimensions to participate. Reynolds, now serving as humanity's dimensional ambassador, stood to address this unprecedented gathering. We face a threat beyond any single dimension's comprehension, he began. The unmaking doesn't distinguish between our realms. It consumes all reality equally. Our differences, which once seemed so vast and unbridgeable, are insignificant compared to the void that threatens all existence. He gestured to the dimensional lenses arrayed around the chamber, each showing glimpses of wildly different realities, some so alien that merely looking at them caused discomfort. Already, our scientists have begun designing the barrier reinforcement network. Using modified Nexus technology, we can create dimensional anchors at key weak points. But this will require resources and cooperation on a scale never before attempted. A representative from what humans had come to call the crystal dimension, a realm where life evolved in crystalline lattices rather than carbon-based. Biology transmitted its response, appearing as complex geometric patterns that the translation system rendered into language. The crystal confluence has analyzed your dimensional anchor designs. We can improve efficiency by 23% through integration with our own dimensional harmonics. We will contribute our knowledge. Similar pledges came from representatives of other dimensions, each offering unique contributions to the growing alliance. Even the reformed Galactic Council, once the most steadfast opponent of dimensional technology, now committed its vast resources to the project. As the formal session concluded, Reynolds found himself standing with Washington Reeves and Lurix on an observation platform overlooking Jupiter's swirling storms. The observatory's position in the Europa orbit offered spectacular views of the gas giant. I never imagined we'd go from fighting the Council to forming an alliance with multiple dimensions in less than a year, Washington remarked. The universe has a strange sense of timing, Lyrics replied, their four eyes blinking in the pattern that indicated philosophical reflection. For 50,000 years my ancestors enforced isolation and fear. Now we find ourselves at the center of the greatest cooperative endeavor in history. Reeves, whose hybrid nature had made her the natural intermediary between dimensions, gazed out at Jupiter's eternal storms. The void entities have a concept they call cosmic irony, the tendency of reality to create solutions within the very problems that threaten it. Meaning? Reynolds asked. The dimensional technology that the Council feared for millennia is the same technology that will save all realities from the unmaking. If they had successfully suppressed it completely, existence itself might have been doomed. A comfortable silence fell among them, each lost in their own thoughts about the incredible journey, from that first confrontation in the council chamber to this moment of interdimensional alliance. There's still one thing I don't understand, Washington said eventually. When I activated the Nexus blade inside the purifier, why did the void entity save me?